Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Together We Shine. The bhavana for tonight is love yourself whole. So we've been talking a lot recently. I don't know why I always stand awkwardly like this because I end up talking for like 5 minutes before we start. So I'm going to bring my chair back. Better. All right. We have been talking a lot this month and really a lot over the last few years about Sutra 133 and specifically the component of compassion. Compassion as the proactive antidote to the contaminant of cruelty. And cruelty is something that a lot of us have a hard time identifying with. It's hard for us to imagine ourselves as cruel, particularly when we think about it in the context that Panditji presents as cruelty specifically aimed at those who are suffering. We don't want to see ourselves in that light, understandably. Most of the time, when we are inflicting cruelty, it's very unconscious and it tends to be aimed at anything outside of ourselves that is a reflection of a part of ourselves that we have labeled as weak or powerless, that somehow we feel justified in oppressing, in making small, and in denying love and compassion. So, what I'd like to do for this practice is to invite a little bit of self inquiry around a specific flavor of cruelty that is directed at the self. And it's not the overt, violent kind of cruelty that we might immediately think of when we hear that word. Rather, it is the withholding of compassion, the withholding of acceptance, the withholding of love. So, what I invite you to do throughout the course of the practice, and then in particular at the end, when we can rest in Shavasana and then come into meditation, is to consider if there are any parts of ourselves that we have labeled as weak or powerless or undesirable in some way, maybe because they came about in a moment of weakness. If there's a memory that we hold on to that captures us in a moment of weakness, when we wish that we had perhaps behaved other than how we did. If we're still judging that part of ourselves, criticizing that part of ourselves, withholding understanding, withholding acceptance, compassion, and love. And if that is the case, then just as the Divine Mother loves us precisely as we are from one moment to the next without any conditioning, we're going to endeavor to be that compassionate, that loving to the parts of ourselves that are suffering, that we have been maybe ignoring, denying, oppressing, neglecting, starving of just basic attention, acceptance, compassion, and love. So we're just going to hold ourselves close and invite at least one of those suffering parts of ourselves back into the whole. And I have found personally that the most effective way to do that is really to try to understand the nature of the suffering, to try to see the circumstances around the suffering from as many different angles as possible, with as broad and thorough a perspective as possible, looking closely with a desire to really understand what's happened, and how we can engage in a way that will facilitate deep and lasting healing. Alrighty, cool. Cool. So go ahead and come onto your belly to begin with. We'll start with Makarasana. We will definitely want a regulated nervous system for this stuff. It helps. Oopsie. So before you actually lie in Makarasana, maybe give yourself a little stretch of the belly. So a variation of Sphinx, pulling the rib cage forward slightly, stretching into the space between the lower ribs and the pelvis. And when you feel like you've gotten a little bit of a stretch there, then start to soften and let the belly squish down into the earth, supporting the weight of the head on the hands or the forearms. And you are familiar enough with Makarasana that you don't need me talking you through it. So rather than listening to my voice, just pay as much attention as you can to the experience of the breath. And any tension, tightness, any quivering or shaking that presents itself, rather than forcing it to grow smooth and steady, approach it gingerly and gently with a curious mind. So again, notice if there is an overriding desire to control, soften that and be with what is lurking underneath that control, just for another minute or so. There you transition from Makarasana up to the hands and the knees, taking your time. And once you make your way to your hands and your knees, invite some intuitive movement. Whatever wants or needs to be experienced or expressed. Find your way into some pelvic circles. So just taking the pelvis itself around in a few circles, loosening up through the connective tissues that connect the hips with the thighs, pelvis with sacrum. And also allow some of the abdominal muscles to receive a little massage with this. Switch directions when you're ready. And come back through to the center. Let's enjoy about 4 rounds of cow and cat. Inhale to draw the collarbones forward. Stretch through the abdomen as you lift the crown and the tail toward the sky. And on exhale, round the spine and squeeze upward and inward through the belly as you tuck the chin. 3 more times. And then back to a neutral spine. Press down through both hands, especially index fingers and thumbs. Bring your left knee a little bit closer to the middle and inhale to just lift the right thigh out to the right side. And on exhale, bring it back. Inhale, lift the thigh out to the side. And exhale, draw it back in. Do that 2 more times. When you're finished, come back to a neutral position. Hands and knees balanced. And then we'll take it to the other side. So shift your right knee a little closer to the midline of the mat. Inhale and float your left thigh up. Exhale, draw it back in. 3 more. When you're finished again, come back to neutral. We'll be working with a lot of asymmetrical postures just to feel into where one side of the body may be dominating the other side, where some weakness may be, just so we can bring awareness there and then practice compassionately with the part of the body that is a little bit weaker or less developed than the other parts. So continuing along that line, On the next inhale, start to lift the sole of the right foot up toward the ceiling. And on an exhale, draw the knee in toward the nose. Inhale, press the sole of the foot toward the ceiling. Exhale, draw the knee into the nose. 2 more. And then back to a neutral tabletop. Give yourself a moment. Other side now. Inhale and press the left heel up toward the ceiling. Exhale, draw the knee to the nose. 3 more times. Practicing with a very inquisitive mind, rather than forcing the body to comply with the mind. Use the mind to learn about the body. When you're finished, once again, back to neutral. From here, we'll start to move through Chakrabakasana, or a dynamic child's pose. So let's bring the thighs, the shins, the feet together to touch. Take an inhale here. Just draw the shoulder blades a little further down the back. Scoop the collarbones forward. And on exhale, begin to curl the spine, rounding, hugging the thighs together, tucking the chin, softening the elbows, lowering the forearms and the forehead at about the same time. Inhale back up to the hands and knees. And exhale again, draw down and back. Two more. The next time you find yourself in that child's pose variation, stay for a few breaths. And again, approach the posture with curiosity. Slide the hands back toward the knees and then press yourself up to a variation of Virasana. Drop the shoulders, lengthen the spine. Just be here a moment. And then we'll play with a lateral stretch. So we'll shift your hips off to the right side, sitting to the side of the feet. Let your left fingers reach out to the left side. And then inhale to extend the right arm up. And on an exhale, just soften a little bit more deeply into that lateral stretch. Inhale, come up again. And exhale, soften into that lateral stretch. We'll move dynamically 2 more times. Good, and then give yourself a moment in this lateral to just melt into it. Notice what's happening in the body, notice what's happening in the breath, and approach yourself with as much unconditional acceptance, loving curiosity, and a blanket compassion. Panditji's commentary defines compassion as loving and serving those who are suffering without judging anyone, including the one suffering, including the one who caused the suffering. This is the compassion we're cultivating. On the next inhale, let's come upright. And on exhale, just release the floating arm and come back through to the center. Again, give yourself a moment to simply be. Then we'll shift the hips off to the left. The same thing, other side. And again, notice the difference. Walking the right hand out to the right, inhaling to sweep the left arm up. And exhaling to soften into that lateral stretch. Inhaling to lift upright. And exhaling to once again soften in. So you'll move dynamically 2 or 3 more times. And again, look for the ways in which the two sides of the body behave differently. And rather than trying to force what might be the weaker or the tighter side to comply, just be curious. Where have you been dominating parts of yourself, forcing, making demands? In the absence of that force and demand, can you choose to become curious around where that imbalance originates? What's caused it? And how can you heal it? With the next inhale, come upright again. Exhale, release the hand and shift back to the center. Give yourself a moment. So coming back into symmetry now. With the next inhale, come to the hands and knees and tuck the toes. And on exhale, let's float the hips up and back to facing dog. Dynamically inhale, let the knees slowly lower. Exhale, float the hips up and back. Let's do that 3 more times. So with each approach to downward facing dog, see if you can move in with curiosity rather than forcing the body to comply to expectations. Let's more dynamically, and then we'll hang out for a few breaths in downward facing dog. Give yourself first the opportunity to wiggle, fidget, adjust, pedal the feet, or in any way that works well for you. Move to learn more and to liberate. And as you settle into a little bit more stillness, think about spreading the fingers, spreading the toes, floating the pelvis up and back. And creating space and maybe even a subtle hollowing sensation in the space of the belly. Hollowing out just a little bit between the ribs and the hips. One more breath. On the next inhale, lower the knees back down. And on exhale, we're going to lower the chest and the chin, tucking the elbows in. Stay here and try to create a stretch in the throat and in the front of the neck. Here, gently lower the belly, stretch the legs out in front of you, and lengthen the back of the neck, bringing the forehead to the neck. Create a little bit more space in the spine, just in case that 8-point posture created a little bit of compression. Try to press down through both hip bones, as well as the pubic bone. Get all 10 toenails onto the mat, squeeze the elbows in and pull the shoulder blades down the back. Now press a little bit more firmly through the right foot, and on an inhale, draw your sternum and collarbones forward as you float your left inner thigh up toward the ceiling. On an exhale, release back down, lowering the leg and the forehead to the mat. Then we'll switch legs. Inhale, float your right inner thigh, drawing the sternum and collarbones forward. And exhale, release back down. Continue alternating. Inhale, float the left inner thigh up, pressing the right foot into the mat. Exhale, release. Inhale, float the right inner thigh up. Exhale, release. This time, both thighs. Inhale. Finding a variation of Shalabhasana, locust. Exhale, release. And we'll just do that one more time. Inhale, drawing the collarbones and sternum forward, floating the inner thighs toward the sky, maybe lifting the hands off the mat. And exhale, release. Bring your right cheek down, extend your arms alongside the body, palms can face up. Let the legs relax and enjoy a few breaths here. Switch to the left cheek on the mat and enjoy a few more breaths. Bring the forehead back to the center, palms once again under the shoulders. Inhale, lift to the hands and the knees, tuck the toes. Exhale, back to downward facing dog. On the next inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees. Take your gaze forward toward your hands. And on an exhale, step lightly to the top of the mat. Feet about hip distance, roughly parallel to one another. Hands are either going to be on the floor, on the ankles, maybe on the shins. Try to find an even distribution of weight through the feet. So maybe spread the toes, rock forward and back a couple of times. And then start to bend one knee deeply and then switch to the other. So again, we're looking for imbalances by working with asymmetry. Often with our symmetrical postures, we don't realize that one side of the body is dominating the other. In asymmetry, it becomes quite a bit more apparent, so we can adjust accordingly. The next time the right knee is bent deeply, stay there for a moment and really sink into the left hip. Let the torso fold forward, let the head hang heavy. Just enjoy a few breaths here. Preparing to shift back to neutral. On an inhale, straighten the right knee, create a little bit more length in the spine. And on an exhale, just fold gently over both legs. Take a moment to check in. Now let's bend the left knee fairly deeply, really dumping into that right hip. We don't normally like to use that language, but we want to exaggerate the stretch through the right hip as much as possible. Breathe into it. Back to neutral. Inhale, both legs straight. Exhale, fold gently over the legs. Root down through the feet. Bend the knees a bit. Bring the hands onto the sacrum. And on the next inhale, rise to stand with a flat back. And exhale, release to Tadasana. Give yourself a moment here. Once again, finding symmetry, finding balance. Moving through some salutations. On inhale, find Utkatasana, bending the knees, sweeping the arms forward. Exhale, sink into a forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, lift half. Exhale, soft knees and slide the right foot back first and then the left, coming into a lunge. Coming into a plank, pardon me. Inhale, hinge forward. And exhale, lower. Inhale to Cobra. Exhale, release. Inhale to hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale back to the hands and the knees, tuck the toes. Exhale, down dog, and enjoy an extra breath in down dog. Inhale, lift the heels, soften the knees, gaze forward. Exhale, step left foot, then right foot to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale back to Utkatasana. Exhale, Tadasana. Enjoy an extra breath. Inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, soft knees. Step the right foot back and then the left to plank. Inhale, hinge forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale back to the hands and the knees, tuck the toes. Exhale, down dog, an extra breath there. Inhale, lift the heels, soft knees, look forward. Exhale, step right foot, then left foot to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, Tadasana, and breathe. Root down through the left foot, draw your right thigh up and in. Again, a very asymmetrical posture, an opportunity to become curious and to be gentle with the parts of the self that might feel a little weak, unsteady, uncertain. And you approach those parts of the self with tenderness, with curiosity. And eventually compassion and love. One more in breath, and on the exhale, simply release the right foot back to the ground. Give yourself a moment, reclaiming symmetry. Then root down through the right foot, hug the left thigh up and in, and start this process of exploration all over again. How is this side of the body behaving, responding differently? No judgment, just curiosity. And with exhale, release the foot back to Tadasana. So continuing with this next round of salutations to move into symmetry, out of symmetry, into symmetry, out of symmetry. Inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, twist to the left, sweeping the left arm down and back, hug the right hip back, navel to spine. Inhale, sweep the left arm forward to come up. Exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, back through to the center. Exhale again, twist left. This time we're going to stay a little longer. Really trying to hug the right hip back. Relax the shoulders. Keep the arms and the hands soft, but maybe sink a bit more deeply into the chair of the twist. Maybe drape the left arm gently across the lower back and place the back of the right hand against the left thigh. Keep squaring off through the pelvis and then deepening the twist. Breathe for about 4 more rounds of breath. On the next inhale, start to unwind yourself. Rise to stand, both legs straight, arms can reach overhead. Exhale, come back to chair. Sweep the right arm back, twisting to the right. Hug the left hip back. Lingering here, squaring off through the low body, sinking a bit more deeply. Maybe the right arm eventually comes behind the back, and the left hand can come to the outside of the right thigh or knee. About 4 more breaths. You'll start to unravel and then rise. And exhale, release to a forward fold. Inhale to lift halfway. On an exhale, soft knees. Slide the left foot back for warrior 1. Roll down through the left heel. Inhale, sweep the arms up by the ears. Exhale, straighten the right leg and bend the elbows out to the sides. Inhale, rebend the knee, reach up. And exhale, straighten the leg, bend the elbows to the sides. Continuing to move dynamically, playing with asymmetry. What can you discover? In the hips, in the shoulders, in the legs, in the feet. Where are you just a little wonky? And how can you greet that wonkiness, that quirkiness, that little bit of imbalance with compassion, with acceptance, and with love? Let's come back into our warrior. And we're going to linger here for a moment. Try to press down firmly through the pinky toe side of the back foot. Strengthening the back leg. Pressing into the heel of the right foot and trying to draw your right hip a little further back. And now lengthen up through the back of the torso. So there's minimal back bending, even though some of it is unavoidable. Soft hands. And now for fun, just let the arms open a bit more to the sides. Taking energy in and letting energy flow back out again for 3, 2, 1 more full breath. And then inhale, straighten the right leg, reach the arms up. Exhale, release the arms down, bend the knee, frame the front foot, roll to the ball of the back foot, and release the shin to the ground. Long back leg, drop through the sits bones, and inhale, sweep the arms up alongside the ears. But on the exhale, let's bring the palms to the heart center. Create a little bit more lift through the crown of the head with inhale. And on exhale, gently twist to the right. Either just rotate the torso or maybe bring your left elbow or tricep toward your right knee or thigh. Again, looking for some of the imbalances in the body and working in a way that will create greater symbiosis and harmony. Breathe for 3. Where are you forcing? 2. 1. Inhale to lift out of the twist. Exhale, frame the foot and step the right foot back to plank. Inhale, hinge forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, find your cobra. We're going to stay in cobra for 1 extra breath. So on the exhale, think about pulling the shoulder blades down, wrapping the triceps in. Inhale, draw the sternum a little further forward. Exhale, release to the mat. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Stay in child's pose for a moment. For the first couple of breaths, really reach the hands forward and fill up space in the armpits. And for the last few breaths, bring the arms alongside the body. And maybe take a hold of the tops of the feet. Breathe into the space at the back side of the heart. Release the hands. Inhale, return to hands and knees. Tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Enjoy an extra breath. Root down through the right foot. Inhale, float your left heel up and back. Exhale, draw your thigh in toward your low belly. Inhale, press the heel up and back. Exhale, draw the knee to the nose. Inhale, reach the leg up and back. Exhale, lunge the left foot through. Setting up for warrior 1. Inhale, rise, sweep the arms alongside the ears. Exhale, straighten the leg, bend the elbows to the sides. So here we are again, moving dynamically. Inhale, rebend the knee, reach up. Exhale, straighten the leg, bend the elbows to the sides. Continue to move dynamically, once again exploring the asymmetry. How is your body responding differently on this side? Where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? Can you relax the parts of the body that are used to carrying the brunt of the labor and encourage or empower the parts of the body that have been left to the sidelines, maybe growing weak through lack of use, lack of trust, lack of recognition. The next time you find yourself in your warrior, stay for a few breaths. Try to root down through the pinky toe side of the back foot. Press into the left heel, hugging the left hip just a little further back, hugging the inner thighs toward one another. Create a bit more lift through the back body, and then let the arms sweep open nice and wide. Breathe for 3, 2, 1 more full breath. Inhale, straighten the left leg. Exhale, sweep the arms down. Frame the left foot. Roll to the ball of the back foot and then release the right knee and shin to the ground. Hug the inner thighs together for stability and inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale, bring the hands together at the heart. 1 more inhale for a little bit more lift through the crown. Exhale, find your twist, maybe just rotating the torso, maybe placing a hand down on the ground or on the block, maybe bringing the elbow to the knee or the thigh. Breathe for 3. What is available here that wasn't available on the other side or vice versa? 2. 1 more full breath. On an inhale, lift out of the twist. Exhale, frame the front foot, tuck the back toes, and slide your left foot back for plank. Inhale to hinge forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra. Again, linger on that exhale. 1 more inhale, find a little bit more lift through the heart. And exhale, release. With the next inhale, come back to hands and knees. Exhale to child's pose. 2 breaths with the arms very active. Reaching out in front of you. And then bring the arms alongside the body again. 2 breaths here. Slide the hands out in front of you. Inhale, return the hands and knees, tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe. Root down through the left foot. Inhale, float the right heel up and back. Exhale, bend the knee and draw your thigh in toward your low belly. Inhale, press the heel up and back. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, reach the leg up and back. Exhale, lunge the right foot through. Inhale, step the left foot to the top of the mat, lift halfway. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, find Utkatasana, chair pose. Exhale, Tadasana. Give yourself a breath or two. Let the feet come nice and wide on the mat. Last little standing sequence, then we get to sit down and lie down shortly after. For now, feet are going to be more or less parallel to one another. Spread the toes and then firm the thighs as though you're trying to push the mat in opposite directions away from the midline. Let's bring the hands onto the hips for now. Inhale to get a little bit taller. And on exhale, start to hinge forward. Roll the sits bones back, away from each other, and up as you fold in. Press down through both feet and inhale to lift halfway, lifting through the back of the head and the back of the heart. Exhale once again, lower. Let's bring the hands down now. And then just bend one knee and then the other, shifting gently from side to side. To the best of your ability now, try to gauge that you are distributing the effort evenly between the right and the left side, and try to create a nice straight line across the sacrum. For some of us, that is easier said than done. If one leg is a little longer than the other, or if there's a pelvic tilt, do the best you can. Keep pressing down through both feet, firming the legs as much as is available, rolling the inner thighs toward the wall back behind you, and sinking the spine further and further into the body. That'll look like the sits bones rolling away from each other and up toward the sky. Breathe here for 4. 3. 2. Again, lift halfway, but keep the hands available for support. Bring your left hand to the middle, right underneath your nose. Press down through both feet and the left hand. Try to keep the pelvis square. And just start to rotate the sternum to the right. Notice if the pelvis is going to try to come with you, and keep it relatively symmetrical as you take the torso into a twist. If it's available, maybe the right arm extends. Inhale, extend the right arm alongside the ear, maybe looking toward the palm. Exhale, float the arm up. Maybe the twist deepens. Inhale, extend the arm alongside the ear. Exhale, sweep the arm up, and maybe the twist deepens. I'll just stay for a couple more breaths. Check in with both legs. Are both legs as equally active as an asymmetrical posture will allow? On the next exhale, release the right hand down and fold forward. Rest a moment. Preparing to twist to the other side, lifting halfway and bringing your right hand more or less under your nose. Press into both feet and try to commit to keeping the sacrum steady. Now rotate the sternum to the left, coming into a twist. Pressing into both legs evenly. If it's available, extend the left arm. Inhale, bring the arm alongside the ear, maybe looking toward the palm. Exhale, sweep it up again, deepening the twist. Both legs active. Inhale, the arm alongside the ear. Exhale, sweep it up, deepen the twist. Stay for 2 more breaths. On an exhale, release the left arm down. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, back to symmetry, forward fold. Just hang out here for a moment and breathe. Here, go ahead and take a seat and find Baddha Konasana. Bring the soles of the feet together. Let the knees open to the sides. Here's another opportunity to notice where asymmetry, imbalance, is showing up in your body. All of us are a little bit more dominant on one side. But we want to try to keep that in check as much as possible, because as you get old like me, those imbalances really start to show up, and they start to lead to quite a bit of wear and tear. So notice where they are. Notice where one side of the body is over-efforting and another side of the body is not given enough opportunity to assert itself. And try to create a little more balance where you can. Just one more breath here. Bring the knees together. Extend the legs out nice and long. Setting ourselves up for Paschimottanasana. Try to get the feet level with one another. So if there were a wall right in front of you, you'd be pressing the feet in, both the inner corners and outer corners of the feet, and both feet evenly. Inhale to find a little bit more length through the spine. And on exhale, start to pull the sternum forward. Keep lifting through the sternum and the collarbones. Hold on to whatever is available. Find extension with inhale. And forward fold with exhale. Keep moving in that way. Here, 4 more breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, just relax here in Dandasana for a moment. Draw your left side up and in towards your belly. Keep the sits bones on the ground. Inhale to get a little bit taller. And exhale, twist to the left. Bring your left hand back for some support if you'd like, and right arm can either wrap around or tuck on top of your left knee or thigh. Keep lengthening with inhale, keep rooting down with the sits bones. And on exhale, develop that twist. Inhale and begin to release the twist. Exhale back to Dandasana. Give yourself a moment. And then let's bend the right knee in. And again, commit to the sits bones, staying flat on the ground. Inhale, get a little bit taller. And exhale, twist to the right. Right hand can come back for some support. Rotate the rib cage and either wrap the left arm around or maybe hook the elbow. With each inhale, a little more length in the spine. And with each exhale, a gently deepened twist. Stay with the breath. Release the twist. Come back to Dandasana. Bend the knees, scooch forward a bit, preparing to lie down. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, roll yourself in. Take a moment to acclimate. Draw your thighs in, place the hands on the knees. Start to take the knees around in a few circles away from each other. Switch directions. Set the feet down. Bring the feet mat width apart. Arms out to the side, just so that they're more or less out of the way. So we're not windshield wipering. We're doing something a little bit different. Inhale with both knees pointing up. On the exhale, keep the right leg as it is and just lower your left knee in toward the center. And then inhale, lift the left knee. Exhale, lower the right knee in toward the center. The whole time, do your best to keep the sacrum flat on the ground. Inhale, lift the right knee. Exhale, internally rotate the left, just lowering it toward the right ankle. Inhale, lift the left knee. And exhale, lower the right. We're going to do that dynamically a few more times. Inhale, lift the right knee. Exhale, lower the left. Inhale, lift the left. Exhale, lower the right. Inhale, lift the right. And exhale, lower the left. Now we're going to stay. So if you want, you can adjust your left foot a little bit so that the left knee is at more of a 90-degree angle. Internally rotating, maybe place your left hand on your left hip just to remind this side of the hip to try to stay on the ground. And then let your right thigh roll in as well. So it's not going to go nearly as far toward the ground as the left, but we're internally rotating both legs here, trying to create a release through the sacrum, through the back side of the pelvis. Breathing here for 3. One more breath. Inhale, lift the left thigh. Exhale, relax a moment. Inhale. And exhale, lower the right knee. And again, you can adjust the leg a little bit so that the knee is more at a 90-degree angle. Maybe your right hand comes onto your right hip, trying to remind the pelvis to stay squared. And your left thigh is going to rotate internally just a bit as well. Stay with the breath. On next inhale, lift The knees back up towards the ceiling. Exhale, just relax a moment. Bring your feet back into hip distance apart, preparing for a little bit of dynamic bridge. Inhale, press the pelvis up. Try to lift both sides of the pelvis at the same rate. And exhale, roll back down. And again, see if you can release both sides of the pelvis to the ground at the same time. Three more times. If you'd like, you can also use the arms. Cultivating balance and symmetry. An equal distribution of effort. Two more. Draw the thighs in once more. Rock the knees away from you and back in toward you. And then press the soles of the feet toward the ceiling. Again, trying to flatten out through the pelvis as though you're standing on the ceiling. Breathing here for 3. 2. And 1. Soften the effort. Option to move directly into Shavasana, or if your body wants one more twist or one more forward fold, go right ahead. If you do twist, give yourself the opportunity for a moment more of symmetry. Before that final release. Take your time setting up for Shavasana. As you find your Shavasana, bring your awareness back to your breath and enjoy 3 or 4 dynamic, diaphragmatic breaths. So applying just enough effort to ensure that the diaphragm is the one governing the breath. And then bring your awareness down to the soles of your feet. Begin to experience a sense of presence, almost like waves rolling in onto the shore. Reaching the soles of the feet at the same time, and then rolling back out again. So completely balanced, equal measure of presence in both feet. Inhale and welcome that sense of presence through both feet evenly, equally. Exhale, release. Stay with that for a few more breaths. Inhale, welcoming a sense of presence up through the soles of the feet. And exhale, releasing it back down and out again, evenly, equally. And that sense of presence or prana washes up through the soles of the feet and reaches the knees at the exact same time, both right and left. And with exhale again, evenly, equally, flows back down and out. With inhale, prana, presence, washes up through the soles of the feet, up the legs at the exact same pace, reaching the knees. And exhale washes down and out again. Once more. Similarly, but now all the way up to the hips. Moving through both legs at the exact same time. Exhale, release. Continue. Prana, presence, washing up through the soles of the feet, past the ankles and knees to the hips. And with exhale, receding through both sides of the body in a balanced and measured way. Once more. Now all the way up to the navel. And down and out again. Washing evenly up through both feet and legs to the heart. And again, evenly, equally, symmetrically, down and out again. Continue. All the way up to Agya Chakra. And now all the way up to the crown, through both soles of the feet, up through both legs evenly, up the length of the spine to the crown, and evenly back down. Allow for these oscillations to become increasingly effortless, and sense that the wisdom, the intelligence, as well as the power of Prana Shakti is addressing any imbalances in the body, in the breath, and in the mind. Following your intention of embracing all equally. Your intention to refrain from dominating. Your intention of encouraging and empowering the parts of the self that may have been weakened in the past. Your intention to seek out, to understand, to accept, to love, and to welcome home the parts of the self that have been injured, that may still be in some way suffering. As the breath becomes more effortless, the oscillations will shift from the crown of the head down and out through the nostrils rather than the feet. Honoring the same intentions. Gradually relinquishing the role of doer. Accepting the assistance offered freely by Pranashakti. Get to return awareness to the flow of prana shakti through both nostrils to the crown of the head. Maintaining a thread of awareness with these oscillations, bring just enough movement back into the body to ease your transition from Shavasana into a seated posture. Remembering that the premise of Hatha yoga, that is inclusive of asana and pranayama, is to facilitate balance, harmony, integration of the various and often seemingly oppositional aspects of the self, so that no particular side is dominant, but rather every element of being is mutually supportive of every other. With that intention, simple Nadi Shodhana. Create Vishnu Mudra and enjoy a couple more breaths through both nostrils as evenly as possible. And throughout Nadi Shodhana, if any thought, memory, impression seems as though it is being excluded, proactively welcome it in. One more inhale through both nostrils. Exhale left. Then inhale left. Exhale right. In right. Out left. In left. Out right. In right. Out left. In left. Out right. In right. Continue on your own for another minute or so. Continue until you take another inhale through the right nostril. Then release the hand and breathe through both nostrils evenly. Gradually sense these two seemingly separate channels merging into one central channel through which prana shakti flows smoothly, steadily, serenely. That smooth, steady serenity is the result of an unobstructed inclusivity. All thoughts, all impressions, all memories, all feelings, all ideas welcomed unconditionally. Invite this concentration of prana shakti now to gather at Agya Chakra. And use the power of your own discernment to identify a part of the heart or psyche, a memory, an aspect of personality that is stuck in a hurt, stuck in a loop of suffering. Perhaps this part of the self seems to be the one inflicting harm. Why might that be? Grow curious and seek to understand. As understanding dawns, offer acceptance unconditionally. from Agya Chakra. Shift awareness to the heart. And tenderly holding any part of the self that is still somehow stuck in the loop of suffering. Notice where you have perhaps been withholding compassion and love. And vow to withhold that compassion and love no more. Open the floodgates and allow compassion and love to rush in. If you've reached a sweet spot in the practice and you wish to remain, please do so for as long as you'd like. If the experience feels complete for today or tonight, offer your gratitude and reverence. Gradually come back to the breath. Press the palms together, gently but firmly in front of the heart. Once again, reaffirming the aim of balance, equanimity, equity, harmony, inclusivity, integrity. The intention to love yourself whole. When you're ready, rub the palms together and place the palms over the eyes or anywhere else you'd like for another breath or two. Let the eyes blink open and move the hands away. So, a journaling question or just a question to take with you into your day. when you're able to identify a part of the self from which you have been withholding compassion or understanding, acceptance or love, how can you vow to become that part of yourself's greatest advocate and defender? So when you can identify a part of yourself that is hurting, how can you vow to become that hurting part of yourself's greatest advocate and defender?